I thought I would mention some stories that came up working a Bezdin. So say over some stories that tie into the Parak HaKoinis. The first two things that came to mind were actually things very interesting. I made a mistake based on the Gemara's HaKoinis. So I'll try to point out some pitfalls to avoid when you're learning HaKoinis. So the guy called up a shayla like this. He went to Eretz Yisrael and he rented a dira and he turned on the dud shemesh. And apparently, when you turn on the dud shemesh in Eretz Yisrael, you're supposed to, if you're turning it on, that means you're probably eventually supposed to turn it off. There's a reason it was off. So Lamaisa, this guy, I guess he knew to a certain extent that he was supposed to turn it off, but then he forgot about it. He didn't realize how bad it could be if you turn it off. If you forget to turn it off, he didn't turn off the dud, and it went up in smoke. It exploded. So the shaila was if he has to pay for the damage to the dud. So the guy asked the shaila, right away I thought like this. We have this Gemara in HaKoinis that says that the Gemara says the Tana Arba Dvar Matayra Miyata B'Shmirasa Ve'elohim Bar Ve'Eishen Geragel. There's four things that the Torah was umayit in the shmira. The Torah said you don't have to do so much shmira like you have to do, let's say, by a shor. So the Gemara says that Bar Eish Shein and Regel, you don't have to do such a strong shmira. So what does that mean? So that means that you don't have to have a fence which is Yechel Lam Ruch Shein Mitzuya. It's enough. It's Yechel Lam Ruch Mitzuya. So that means that when a person is being shomer that an eish shouldn't make a hezek, he just has to make sure to make a fence that's Yechel Lam Ruch Mitzuya.
Why is this woman a mazik? It's not other mazik?
No, so this was my mistake. See, I thought that this is an eish because you're lighting a fire, right? And ba'atzim, first of all, right away when you light the fire, you have reshus to light the fire, right? You have reshus to turn on the good. You didn't do anything wrong. And then you forget to turn it off. So you weren't shomer the fire that you lit. So I thought that should have a din of eish. It should be telling in the din of eish. That's what I thought. Now, so ibazai. So l'chayra, it should be telling in the halacha of ruach mitzuya, ruach shein mitzuya. So whatever shia is considered a ruach mitzuya, that you be chayiv. If shia is considered ruach shein mitzuya, you be pater. So the Gemara says in Parakate Siddharagel, it says in the end over there that if the guy has so the guy has a stone in his lap, and he didn't chap that he had a stone in his lap. He stands up, and falls over. It's mazik something. So Gemara says it's only chayiv on nezakin, not on dalad var. It's not chayiv on tsar ripu shevas and boishes. So the Gemara's before over there that the gather is that nezek you have other mud loylam, so you chayiv even on ruach shein mitzuya. But the other dalad varm, you only chayiv on a ruach mitzuya. But a ruach shein mitzuya, you're pater. So, and then the Gemara also has another case over there where you knew that there was an evan in your lap, and then you forgot about it, and you stand up, and you're mazik. So the Gemara also says you pater on dalad varm, even though you knew that there was a stone in your lap, and you stand up, and it falls off. Because shikha is considered oinus of a ruach shein mitzuya, it's not considered a pshia of a ruach mitzuya. So Mela, you pater on shikha, anything that you pater on rosh shein mitzuya, you pater on shikha. So I thought that in this case, where the guy forgot to turn off the door, I thought he'd be pater because there's a din of eish, I turned me into mishmras. That's what I thought. Well, somebody showed me it's before Pesach Tshuva. He brings down a Halacha Shiur that says the guy lit a candle and he forgot to put it out and it made a fire, and it says before over there that he's chayiv on the hezek, and the Halacha Shiur fears like because Adam would loyal. Adam will loyal. So he says it's Adam. It's not ish. I was very surprised. And I said, before the guy even showed me the Pesach Tshuva, I went and asked other dayanim before I passed in Shel Baruch Hashem, and they told me also they thought it was Adam will loyal. So I asked them. I think Gemara says that eish is different because what are they saying? That these dayanim were tying to me that the Gemara says in Kate to the Regel that eish mishum chitza. Eish is like Adam Mazik. So I thought that's not true. The only time you say eish mishum chitzav is if you did the right shia, that's mechayiv you on eish, so then it has a din of adam hamazik. But still, the only way to become adam hamazik, to have a din of eish mishum chitzav, is only if you have the shia that the Gemara says about over here, that term is b'shmirasam. So I thought that any oinus which would be considered rosh shein mitzuya, L'chayr, you wouldn't become a situation of Eishim Mishum Chitzav unless you have a Pshia of Ruach Mitzuya. But somebody told me that there have been a time in the Sugya of Eishim Mishum Chitzav that's Mavur that even on Oinsim Yichai because Adam Mud Lo'ilam. So you'll be Muchach that this Gemara that says Atayr Miyat Mishmirasa is not talking about a case of Eishim, a situation of Eishim Mishum Chitzav. It's only talking about Eish, which you can't be Chayiv Mishum Chitzav. The Gemara in case of the Rebbe says that there's two different situations of Eish. There's one case of Eish where you Chayiv that it has a din that it's your Maisa, it's Mishum Chitzav, has a din of Adam. And the other case of Eish is where it doesn't have a din of Adam, where it only has a din of Eishim Mishum Amoyim. So these Dayanim were taining to me that Ein Chanami, the Gemara over here says that Eish is Atayr Miyat Mishmirasa, and that's only talking about a case where the Eish can't be considered Mishum Chitzav, where it can only be Chayiv Mishum Amoyim. In that case, the Torah says you don't have to have such a strong shmirah. But an age where you could be chayiv mishum chitzav, in such a where it could be considered your ma'isa, like the Gemara says over there in case of the Rebbe, there's a case of age which could be considered your ma'isa, which would be like our case. So in that case, you would have to have a bigger shmirah because Adam would lo'elam. So apparently they're right. I'm not sure why, because I asked them right away. The l'chayr doesn't make sense because the Gemara says in later on in Akainis, the Gemara says that how do we know Eishim Mishum Chitzav? Because the Torah says Hamaver Saveira. So the Torah says Hamaver Saveira means that if a person goes ahead and lights a fire, it's kilu he made the hezek. It's kilu he did the hezek biyadayim. So. And the Gemara over here, when the Gemara darshans this halacha of Atayr Miyat Mishmirasa, what's the raya that the Gemara brings? The raya the Gemara brings is because it says Shalom Yishalom Hamaver Saveira. That's came Mavir. So the Gemara is darshan mamish on the same pasuk that we learn out in Mishum Chitzav. The Gemara darshans from that same pasuk that Atayr Miyat Mishmirasa. So I thought right away that it has to be that even in a case where you could be chayav Mishum Chitzav, where it's going to be considered your ma'isa, you still need to have a big pshia of Ruach Mitzuya. But apparently, Halacha Shiur says not like that. I'm not sure why. I don't have a clear teretz why Taka it's not right in the Gemara. If the Olam has a pshat, let me know what the teretz is. That was one mistake. Another mistake I wanted to share with the Olam was a guy came over the shiloh like this. He made a sukkah and he put schach on it. Yeah, what are you thinking?
In the case of the dude, the case of the candle, it naturally will go down. It's more than a Ruach Mitzuya. Ruach Mitzuya chat is he made a fire, and it's not oimid to spread, but then a Ruach comes and spreads it. So that's the mazik of Eish. But when you turn on the do it, and it burns out by
You're saying it's like Mokum V'Hel. So the Gemara says in the case of the regal that if you put a fire, if that everybody agrees, if you put a fire on something and it burns that thing, it's Mokum V'Hel. So you're timing the do is Mokum V'Hel. That could be. I hear. That could be the pshat. I hear. Very good. I hear. Yeah, that might be the pshat. I hear.
What would be if it blew up? It would be mazik other things.
Mazik other things, right?
That would be different. But the do itself.
Right.
The candle burns down, then it burns itself.
Right.
Maybe a ground.
Right. Shaz, what about the rest of the things? Like it sounds over there in the house.
Yeah, but you lit the fire and the stuff that.
You have to know.
So whatever the fire burns.
Yeah, there is a Marshal also says that.
But if the fire burns, because it exploded a piece of the barrel, whatever you want to call it, the water heater flew out of the guy's window. You don't pay for the guy's window. You're growing on the window.
I think you would. It's not even koyach, it's straight up.
No, it's not.
It's
It's koyach.
Okay, so the next shadow was a guy built a sukkah, and in the middle of the sukkah there came a very big wind, and it blew a schach onto somebody else's car, and it was mazik the car. You know the shadow?
I noticed it.
Yeah. Okay, it's
Is it you?
world. Was it your car or your sukkah?
No. The guy was wrong.
I hear. So the guy wanted to know if he's chayiv for the car. So here's the Rosh Hashanah Mitzuya, right? It was a huge wind, unexpected wind. Usually your schach stays on your sukkah, hopefully. It doesn't usually. Even if it falls off, it doesn't usually go in massive car. That's already a big chiddush. So the guy had shayla, is he chayiv or not? So the Vada B'dinei Adam, he's potter. It's Rosh Hashanah Mitzuya, he's potter. Shayla is, what about B'dinei Shemayim? So I thought there's two Gemaras over here that say chayiv B'dinei Shemayim. First Gemara is the Gemara says that what's the case? More said, then it's within the Adam Chai. So if I take the guy's wheat and bring it closer to the fire, and the fire become Rosh Hashanah Mitzuya, so the Gemara says the Chayev B'dinei Shemayim. So l'chayra, the Gemara is saying that even though on a Ruach Shein Mitzuya you're Pater B'dini Adam, the Gemara is saying that you're Chayiv B'dini Shemayim. So that's one raya I thought that shows us that on an Eish, even if it's a Ruach Shein Mitzuya, you're Chayiv B'dini Shemayim. So the guy made a sukkah, it's Agnes Zakinu Asoi, and then a Ruach Shein Mitzuya comes and blows it onto the car, even though it's Ruach Shein Mitzuya, you should Chayiv B'dini Shemayim.
Why did the Gemara just say stop? Maybe it's that goes out. It was not the Ruach Shein Mitzuya. What did the Gemara say?
I hear. Okay. I guess that's the reason I should have realized that I'm wrong. Yeah, what are you tying?
By the stocks, you bent something, you did something.
Oh, very good, excellent. So somebody showed me Yad Ramah that says Mamash Yad Svar. The Yad Ramah says, Bavasra, in the middle of a very long piece of Yad Ramah, that he, in the middle of a very long piece, because he goes, the Yad Ramah and Bavasra goes off on a lot of tangents, and he handles all kinds of halachas. He says over there, that if a guy, he's talking about cases where you're chayiv lotzei shemayim. So Yad Ramah says one case is where you do a ma'isa in somebody else's thing, and you cause a hazard because of that ma'isa. And he brings down our Gemara. You see clearly in the Yad Ramah that he understood the Gemara. It's not stam a klal that every time an eish chayiv rosh and mitzvah. It's only if you do a ma'isa in the person's thing, like you were saying, that's the case where you chayiv b'dina shemayim. Before the guy told me I was wrong, I had a different raya also that I wanted to bring from the next Gemara over here. It says over here in the Gemara, Nishra kadeh b'rishus rabim v'loy silka, nafal gam v'loy amid. There may be chayav zeh, v'chamer patu dini al chayav b'dina shemayim. If your camel falls over, or if your kad falls down, and somebody gets a hezek, patu dini al chayav b'dina shemayim. Now the Gemara says in Haminiach that there's two cases that this Bryce is talking about. One case of the Bryce is that it's mazik b'shas nafilu. Right? When the gomel falls down, right away it's mazik. And then the other case that it's talking about is where it's mazik l'achar nafilu. That falls down, and then you mafkir it, and you leave it there, and then it's mazik. So there's two machlokes. And one machlokes the Gemara says is whether niskal is l'shayat, and whether the fact that it fell down and you slipped, somehow you slipped and you made it fall down, so is that called a pesher or not? So Meir holds a pesher or kamoli not a pesher. The other case is, the other machlokes is whether mafkir nezakav l'achar nefilas oinus, I think, there's different mahalchim in the Gemara over there, mafkir nezakav l'achar nefilas either pesher or oinus, whether you chayiv. Whether a person whose thing is in the Rishus Rabbim, shaloi b'rishus, and then he goes and he's mafkir and he doesn't pick it up, is he chayiv on that or not? So there's two cases in the Gemara, in this Bryce. So I thought that when Rameir says that that when the Chacham say, even though you pat b'dini adam, you chayiv b'dini shemayim, it's going on both cases. Sai b'shas nefila, sai lachar nefila. Now b'shas nefila, what was the machlokes? Machlokes is, well, it's considered a pshi or oinus, the fact that it fell down. Now, if it's considered a oinus, right, so that's considered like a rosh and mitzuya. This is like more of a tzushtal kind of thing. The Taisa says that niskal oinus means that if you slip, it's considered like a rosh and mitzuya. So here you see over here that a oinus of rosh and mitzuya, you're chayiv b'dina shemayim. So somebody showed me that Rashi over there in Aminiach says that the Rashi says b'chayiv b'dina shemayim mishum deloy salak, because he didn't pick it up. So it sounds in Rashi like it's only going on the second case of not picking it up, rather than on the first case of niskal pesher. In other words, it's talking about, the Bryce we said is talking about two different cases. One case is where it was mazik l'achar nefila, and one case is mazik b'shas nefila. So Rashi sounds, is a diak in Rashi that the only case where you chayiv b'dina shemayim is the hezek of l'achar nefila, because of the fact that you left it over there and you're mafkir it. In that case, Rashi says you chayiv b'dina shemayim. But in the case where it's mazik b'shas nefila, where the machlokes is if you're a pshi or oinus, and the chacham pater because you're a oinus, in that case the chacham never would have said that you chayiv b'dina shemayim, because on a oinus you talk not chayiv b'dina shemayim, a rosh and not chayiv b'dina shemayim, and mela the halacha in our case would be that you're pater. That's the other right the guy told me, and he told me that there's also another thing that there's a chazanish that learns up by kaifif kamasav if ne'ad leika. The chazanish says that the pshat in that Gemara is because you're mischaven lahazik, you have kavanah to mazik. So in our case, the guy didn't have kavanah to mazik. So right away, I thought that it's very sure in this chazanish because the Gemara says that what's the hava? Why do we have to say these four cases of patu dini al mechayev dina shemayim? So the Gemara says ma'od tema no kasuya kasisa ni Allah dina shemayim nami lo chayev kamash malon. So the Gemara says that the reason why there's a havamina in this case particularly by Kaivish Kaimasli, That would be potter. The Gemara says because the guy could say, "I really had kavanah l'toiva. I wanted to save your thing for you rather than cause a hazard." So Rashi and Taisus, I don't remember exactly the deal, but I remember that came out that there was machlokes in Rashi and Taisus had to understand this Gemara. That one of them learns that it's Taka talking about a case where the guy had kavanah l'toiva. He wanted to save the guy's wheat. And Im calls that, even though he had kavanah l'toiv, he's still chayav because l'maisa he should have been more careful. And the other one learns that it's talking about Hitaka didn't have kavanah l'toiv, but there's a Hamid he's saying that he had whatever. I don't remember exactly.
Actually, we don't believe him, and Pesach says
Right, Rashi says we don't believe him. So that means Hitaka was muschab. We say he was muschab and lahaz. Pesach says well lazuri. So l'chayra, the Chaznish says over here in this case that the reason why he chayav rosh and mitzvah is because he had kavanah. L'chayr is only going like Rashi, not like Taisus. L'chayr. That was the kasha that I had. I don't know. So that's why I had a little shtar on this Chaznish. Okay, should I say another story? Noch a Maisa. One Maisa after another. Okay, this is not so much very good. This is a little bit. There was a story. This lady, she went ahead and she rented a dira from somebody in Eretz Yisrael, and a lot of Eretz Yisrael cases over there. And they had a conversation on the phone. She rented it through an agent, and then she spoke to the lady herself on the phone. And on the phone, they had a conversation about that she wanted to have some freezer space. She was coming with a whole entourage of food, and there was being mamish like massive amounts of food being brought to her for sukkahs. So it was a whole yomtiv, huge amounts of food. So she needed a lot of freezer space in this dira. So the lady said, "No, I only have 2 shelves. I only have 2 shelves for you." So she said, "It's not going to work. I need a whole freezer." So now there's an akasha exactly what happened. The lady, for the American lady, says that she told her, "I need the whole freezer. If not, I can't come." And the Eretz Yisrael lady answered, according to the American lady's story, the Eretz Yisrael lady answered her back that I'll see what I could do. Fine. And then the Eretz Yisrael lady says, "I don't remember that whole part of the conversation. I just remember that I told her nothing doing, and that's it." And she remembered that she said back because it's not really good, but she didn't remember this hoisafa that she said that I'm going to see what I can do. So the kids of this lady from America comes over there to the dira, expecting a nice big freezer, and l'maisa, the freezer is full of food. There's like only two shelves. So she called up the agent, and the agent told her that just clean it out, take everything and dump it. So she took it out. She made a pile of frozen food, and then she called the lady later on that night. The lady who rented it to her, and the lady who rented it said, "What do you mean? I need the food. It's going to melt. It's going to get ruined." So the lady, the Yisrael lady, told the American lady, "Go see if you can find a neighbor that has a freezer." So the American lady understood. She was going in her mindset that it's her freezer, and she has every right to empty it out. So she thought the lady's asking her for a favor to find the freezer for her and to put the food into the freezer. So she went and asked the neighbor. She found the freezer. She put the Eretz Yisrael lady's food into the freezer, and the Eretz Yisrael lady obviously assumed that she's not supposed to get the freezer, and she's putting her own food in the freezer, or whatever. The American food is going to be in the freezer. The American food in the freezer, Israeli food in the freezer. So after Sukkot, so very nice. It was nice Yom Tov. The freezer was knocking away, and Yom Tov is over, and she's getting ready to go to the airport. And I don't remember if the Yisrael lady asked her to put the food back in, or she just decided to do her a favor, and she started trying to bring the food back into the freezer. Now, in the meantime, over Yom Tov, this is like a very interesting part of the story that I never really figured out shot on this, but there was this guy, some bacher, who was like drains the whole year in this apartment with this lady the whole Yom Tov. And she said, he's a funny guy, like he started like getting into her own private stuff, and I didn't get clear exactly what was going on over there. It sounded like a little bit of a nutty person, but basically what happened was that this guy offered, he's going to be a big Baal Chesed, and he's going to help bring, she sees she's in a rush, he's going to bring over the rest of the food and put it into the freezer. So she went to the airport and went back to America, and this guy, I guess, tried to bring the food back to the freezer. L'maisa, he left the freezer door open. So now the food ended up, it was all of a shot. So the shaila was, so this bacher is like, Yudua, he's not such a, he doesn't have much to deal with when you're trying to get him to pay for these kind of things. So the Shiloh was, the Israeli wanted to convey the American lady to pay for the food. So the Shiloh is if she's mechuyev to pay. So what do you say?
She gave it over to Farish.
Right, whatever you want. So, yeah, but the Shiloh, maybe she's a shomer. Is she a shomer on the food or not?
She's not
Well-
getting paid, so she makes someone else a shell.
It doesn't make. She's for sure a shomer. The fact that she picked it up and moved it, whether she asked her or not, in other words, if you're doing someone a favor, you're automatically a shomer. She gave it over to someone who's not responsible.
Why are you a shomer? If you're doing somebody a favor, let's say her version of the story is right, and really she could take the food and throw it into the street, right? And she's just doing this lady a favor and finding a place for her.
By taking it, she takes on the responsibility.
Then she's becoming a shomer aveda.
Yeah, but she gave it over.
I'll see what I can do. Doesn't
Two.
mean that she can do
Shaita.
what she wants.
Right, but then she called the agent.
He apparently is a shaita.
And said that my
Because he's not a shaita, he's responsible.
So the agent said,
Over there and all the milk spoiled. Just shake that?
Yeah.
She understood that the agent verified it with this first.
No, in other words, okay, so if he's not a shaita, he's responsible.
If
If he's not responsible, it's because he's a shaita.
No.
If he's not a shaita, then he's responsible.
So I don't know
Why is he not
if
responsible?
she's
She did a
shomer,
shaita.
then
Really?
it should
Could be
be
responsible.
It should be a shomer.
He wants to
He
figure out
just said no. He said your dad is a responsible. Your dad's crazy.
She put the food.
He said.
It was okay. Now,
No.
That guy,
guy,
he's
go
not
ahead and take it out and
Charles
choose
got
it.
10 hours.
Right?
This guy's not paying enough. If he pays no, if he has to pay, nobody get no.
What is it? What's the difference?
Okay, that's irrelevant. One second. One second. Let me get it straight.
She's no child that the buffer is not.
So what's in her?
Because you don't want to pay. I'm not.
If I'm watching your sheet,
This Israeli wants to just get the money from the American lady. Let the American lady worry about that.
They're not saying that.
Rabbi,
Okay, but
if you hire me,
money, they can't get out.
if you hire me to pump at you poop and scoop it.
yeah, you're going with
No,
you leave
Shmuel
food.
doesn't say that if he lent you money and you lent him money, he could go to the last thing.
I understand that.
Yeah, but she's a
Shmuel, there's
shomer.
nothing.
No, so that's the question. The question is, she ever became a shomer? Did she ever become a shomer?
Even if she did,
She's not anymore.
He's chai, but now could the Israeli be considered an American?
She's had no responsibility else, but she's still responsible.
But then what's the deal with the buffer? He's actually crazy, or is just that he doesn't have money?
He's a buffer, you know. Like,
Okay, and does he have? In other words, what's the reason why he's not paying? Why is he not paying?
He's not paying.
Why is he not paying? Because he doesn't want to pay. So that's why. What's that to do with the American lady?
No, because if the American
If he's a regular guy, if nothing's wrong with him, physically wrong with him, just the fact that he doesn't want to pay, nothing to do with the American lady. She gave it over to a responsible person. She's off the hook completely.
So I don't know if he's a responsible person.
Huh? I mean, she gave over to a responsible person.
Right. If she has a din of a shomer, if the American lady would have a din of a
Yeah, then she gave it over to a responsible person.
No, but a responsible person doesn't help, right? The Gemara says.
Why is she not a shomer aveda?
Shomer is chai. If I'm watching
It's legal that you could have thrown it out?
you and your man, you're Moshe with it, I'm
First of all, she could have thrown it out.
because it's my right. I have no right to give you. It's either he trusted me, he wouldn't trust you.
Right. According to the American lady's version of the story, that she made a upmach, a clear upmach, that she's only renting the dira if there's no food in the freezer. Right. And then the Israeli lady goes ahead and leaves food in the freezer. Right. So even let's say that we say that the lashon of I'll see what I can do doesn't mean anything. But at the end of the day, you took my money, right? So that means that you accepted my terms.
Once we establish that she's going to take responsibility on the food, the initial conversation should have nothing to do with this.
No, because the original conversation might determine whether or not she's taking responsibility. If you say that
Once she established she's going to take responsibility.
I don't think
Later on, afterwards, she
I
established.
don't think that's pulled out Veda
She
Midah.
said more than I'll see what I can do.
who the Israeli.
The American. The American said,
The American is doing a favor. She's doing her a favor and putting the food in there. Now, it could be, if the American lady's original story is right, that she has the rights to the freezer, and that's his right to throw it out. She's now doing this lady a favor and putting it in the other freezer. So once she puts it in that other freezer, she's now blocked. She doesn't have responsibility to make sure that it's back safely to the first freezer, right? She just has responsibility to put it in that freezer. Once she did that, she's blocked,
yeah,
right?
but if she decides that she's going to move it back, then that's her.
So what she moved back, she's chayav on. That's true. Whatever she moved back, all right, I forgot to mention that. Whatever the American lady took out of the freezer and put back, there's no shiloh, she's chayav on, right? Because she put it back in a place. and she didn't make sure that freezer was closed. So that's push that she's chayav with that. But that was only a small amount of food.
No, she closed it. The guy opened it to put more in.
No, because the door, let's say the door was left open. I don't remember 100% the case. No, I'm saying the American lady takes the food back to the first freezer and leaves the door open and asks this other guy to close it that she's looking chayav. Is that, like he's saying, she's ready to accept the responsibility? But the question is, the food that's still in that freezer that's working and running and doing well. And now this buffer takes it out of that freezer and puts it in this freezer and forgets to close the door. So if the American lady is a shomer, so then she'll be chayiv for that food, right? Because the shomer shemal also shomer. But if the American lady is not a shomer, right? So now we have to try saying that she's a mazik, so that's a lot harder case to make, right? Because she didn't do a ma'aseh of hezek on that. She just let this other guy go ahead and take that food and put it back. She had no chiyuv shmir on that food. If you accept her story, and then take it to the next level and say that she had absolutely no responsibility on the food in the beginning, and she was just doing this lady a favor by putting it in the freezer, so once she put it in the freezer, she's now fucked it completely. And once
just a neighbor, let's say some neighbor who takes it and says, oh, could you crack those out of the country, could you do me a favor? I have gas, can you take the food out of my freezer and put it there? Sure, no problem. And then, and I'll bring it back after.
No, if you say she didn't say she was going to bring it back. In the beginning, she didn't say she was
let's say you call the neighbor, could you please bring my food back?
Right.
I'll see you, I'll try to help you. She doesn't owe it to you.
Right.
Basically, the child is if she owed it to her to bring her food back. On the time that she doesn't owe it
The
to her
child
to bring her
also,
food back,
it could be she never owed it to her to bring it to the freezer in the first place.
That's only as far as whether she has to bring it back or not. The basic question you're saying is totally, does she have to bring it back from the freezer back or not?
Even if she doesn't have a chiyuv to bring it back, but she might have a chiyuv shmir on it where it is, to make sure that it stays there and doesn't get ruined.
Even after she leaves?
Yeah.
So if a rat comes and opens the door or whatever and makes the rest of she's chayav also on that?
How's the really going to
It could be that's the shmir that she accepted. She's a shomer chinam, could be, and Mamela she wouldn't be chayav. Depends maybe shomer rabbi, the shomer chinam, shomer sof, or whatever. But I'm saying, in our case, I was very misupik if she even becomes a shomer rabbi, because it could be that it's aved, according to her version of the story, it's aved midas. This lady had no right to leave the food in the freezer because by accepting the money, she accepted the terms that they made up. And according to the American lady's version of the story, there were clear terms that she's not taking it unless the freezer's empty. So even though the Israeli lady never seconded the motion and told her that 100%, but Lamaisa, she ended up accepting the money and going into the rental, which L'chair would tell us that she accepted those terms. So if that's true, so then the Israeli lady had no right to leave the stuff there. Shmuel is not a Shem Rabbi either because Aved Midah, she left it there for Shia. So you don't become a Shem Rabbi either. And Mamela, she has absolutely no chiyuv on it. She's doing her a favor by bringing it over to that freezer. And once she puts it in the freezer, she has no chiyuv on that thing.
Aved midas, once you pick it up, then you have to return it, right?
No.
If you
I don't think so. No.
even if once you pick it up, don't you make kinyan on it?
There are cases in Aved where you become chayiv once you pick it up, but not by Aved Midas. Aved Midas, you have no mitzvah to return either.
Why is it Aved Midah? She has nothing to do. She rented out a thing, and her stuff at the time.
She left it in place.
She has no right.
No, when she left it, she's out of the country. She left food, and then the lady said, I'm only taking it. Okay,
No,
fine, what do I do?
No. The
That
lady
conversation
left.
before she
The renter lady was made to be done.
Before the landlady left?
Before the landlady left, they had a conversation on the phone, and the landlady said, "I'll see what I can do." And then when she comes there, the landlady's already gone, and now I'm timing that it might be a
to the renter. That's the
she knew that there was an issue with this freezer, and she went into the rental and accepted that whatever happens to the food happens, according to the American's version. That was a shot. Show you. What the halacha is, I think I came out that the American was potter on the rest of the food. I think it was a pshara. I think she had to pay a third or something. She ended up paying everything.
They could deal with this, they could deal with the stuff.
She ended up paying her, I think. The child was taken out of Maisa. That was the name over there. Okay.